Hey, I'm actor Chris Bartlett from The Mandalorian, The Book of Boba Fett, and Obi-Wan Kenobi, and you're watching Virtual Cantina Network.
Hello, everybody.
Hello there.
Welcome to our show. We are the Jedi Archives. We do the Bad Batch after show. We're here every week. You, me, and everyone. We're here. I am Jonathan Chiato.
I'm Mike.
And this is Bryce. This is Bryce today, right? This is Bryce. Oh, I'm going the wrong way. My finger just disappears. Look at it. This disappears. There's Bryce. So you gotta go like that. All right, Bryce will unfortunately can't be with us this week, but he will be here in Force Spirit. We are reviewing episode, this is 9, right?
Yep, season 3,
Yes.
episode 9, The Harbinger.
Which is a great title.
It sure is. And I've got the breakdown for you ready. And so this episode of the Bad Batch, The Harbinger, opens up on Pabu. But unlike previous episodes, it no longer appears idyllic and dreamlike with colorful waters and green foliage. Instead, it is now drab and muted gray tones, cloudy and foggy, with no sun shining, signifying a darker, ominous coming, fitting for the title as an omen of something bad to come. And I actually did grab some screenshots to share with you, so Jonathan, make it so.
Oops.
You can see here that this is the first time that it's not a sunny day on Pabu, and the water's all gray and murky. It's just, the island looks completely different from the way we're used to seeing Pabu.
Wait, hold up. That's from the show? Wow. I thought that was like, I thought you had a photo of some real island or something. You're comparing it to the anime one. I was like, that's, wow, they just, wow, they really murkied it up, huh?
They sure did. And so,
serious overcast.
Disney Plus doesn't allow you to do screenshots. It just comes out completely black. So I had to do it the old-fashioned way, pick up my phone and take a picture of it, of my screen. And
that's pretty clear. Yeah.
Put those together. Yeah. You can see the wavy lines from when it was being presented. But yeah, very stark contrast between normal Pabu on top and then the Harbinger below. So you can see it's going to be a dark episode. That's it. You can let it go now. That's the only image I have for you for this show, but maybe in the future I'll be adding more. So Wrecker's teasing Crosshair at the opening for making a new friend on Pabu. And when they're interrupted by Hunter, who is concerned that after checking the comms on the Marauder, they still haven't heard from Fennec Shand. So remember, last episode, it seemed like she had sold them out. And
well, let's not go too far. That opening little button or whatever you want to call it, him just teasing him like you're making a friend. I'm like, that's like he's grown leaps and bounds already. I was like, I would never ever expect Crosshair to be helping out someone. So I was like, I really like he's really growing. This show's doing a great job of character development. So I really enjoyed it. Yeah. So
also character development for Wrecker, because remember, Wrecker didn't really want to trust him at the beginning either. He really bought into that if Omega trusts him, then that's good enough for him, and he's true to his word. Yeah, he really is fully accepting Crosshair, so it's really nice.
I have no doubt at all with Crosshair's intentions. It's not like maybe he'll betray him or nothing. He's fully bought into. He's one of her uncles or surrogate father or something. He's definitely bought in. So it's convinced me. So they've done a really good job at that.
Yeah, he's definitely back in the fold. Although, however, I still feel like he has more of a commitment to Omega than to his brothers, to be honest. So I think he feels. So if he had to choose, he would choose Omega over his brothers at this point.
I see that.
Mm-hmm. So then Hunter reminds him that she's the only lead. Oh, wait. Crosshair reminds Hunter that since when does the Bad Batch have to wait for intel, right? But then he reminds Crosshair that she's the only lead they have, and they need to find out what this M-count business is and why the Empire is targeting Omega.
So right here, Crosshair says something great, and I was like, wow, that's like kind of wow. He says a really brilliant thing. He says, "Why do we care? We're not giving her up." And then Hunter tries to kind of hit it with reason, trying to say, "Well, it's good to know what we're up against." But this is the key right here. Honestly, was it let sleeping dogs lie? Is that the term? Don't. The fact that they're putting that out there, reaching out to bounty hunters, hey, what's M count, is what's going to make it come back to them. Honestly,
bite them in the ass.
yeah.
Yep.
And later on, our guest says that. So it's like, really, Crosshair should, like, why do we care? We should just let this die. No, we're here. We're safe. We don't mention M count ever again. We don't even mention we're clones. We're like, don't mention it that she's a clone or anything like that, and it's not going to get out. And so, but because
if you're trying to lay low, you don't bring attention to yourself by bringing these things up.
It's human curiosity. Like, well, what's going? Why? I mean, we always say it all the time. Why? But it's hard to like think big picture. What if I don't put it out there and just let it go away, and it won't? But he has to know, and I understand wanting to know. I mean, I would want to know, but that's really what's going to end up happening. It's going to get up to the wrong person. Like, oh, they want to know, and she found them like that. She's like, so if she can do it, other bounty hunters too. There's Cad Bane out there. We already see him in the trailer. So I think.
But to be fair, she has the Force on her side. Not many of the other bounty hunters can use the Force.
Yes, absolutely, but Cad Bane has bested Jedi. He's good. So,
right, but in terms of him being able to find out information, she has that avenue of being able to find out information through the Force, which Cad Bane doesn't. Not that he can't best Jedi.
But well, I'm just saying, if there's any bounty hunter that can, it's going to be Cad Bane. He's the elite, top of the elite.
Boba Fett too.
Well, I think at this point in their careers, Cad Bane's probably a little more elite than Boba Fett. I mean, Cad Bane just come off the Clone Wars was almost unstoppable. I mean, they whenever he was involved, they couldn't really stop him. He'd do whatever he wanted. So
even on Coruscant.
Yeah.
I mean,
so I'm saying
he went to the heart of the galaxy.
If he wants to, he can find it. So
right.
I think them putting that out there is what's going to make them. They're dropping the breadcrumbs. So Crosshair is really smart and say, why do we care?
He does. Yeah,
he's going to give it up.
He's telling Hunter it doesn't matter what intel they receive.
Yeah.
They're never going to have Omega.
Anything. There's zero things they could say that's like, oh, we should just hand her over.
Right. But then Hunter comes back saying that he wants to be prepared. So if he
I know. So yeah,
he's being more cautious. So
is he? I don't think he's being cautious. I think he's being reckless under the guise of being cautious. It's really his curiosity.
Yes, that's what it is.
Yeah.
He's being reckless under the guise of being cautious because he'd rather have, when you're playing cards, you'd like to know what your opponents have.
Yeah.
That's always an advantage. But if your opponents see you holding up mirrors, that's not a good sign, right? Then we cut to Omega with Badger playing fetch on the beach. And then Badger chases some Munoz, which, by the way, I looked up, and these Munoz were named in honor of the Bad Batch writer Amanda Rose Munoz. And they're pronounced Munoz because it's Moon-YOS, Munoz.
I don't remember. What was Badger chasing? I don't remember.
The little lizard-like creatures, they're called Munoz.
Oh,
MOON-YOS.
I don't remember that at all. I just remember they were like running around on the beach and they found a cave.
No, he was chasing them into the cave. And so because I watch it with the subtitles, and so that's why I saw that, the Munoz skittering. And I said, Munoz? That's weird. Well, Amanda Rose Munoz wrote the first season's 3-episode pilot, episode Aftermath 101, 101A, 101B, and the 6th and 13th episodes, Decommissioned and Infested. She also wrote the second season's 3rd and 13th episodes, The Solitary Clone and Pabu, and the 3rd season's 5th episode, The Return. And so, in order to immortalize herself a little bit in the Star Wars universe, she named the
lizard
after her last name, which is pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
A character, a planet. I know they've named planets after characters.
Yeah.
But like, let's name a lizard that we'll never, ever, ever see again.
But you know what? How many people can say that have something named after them in Star Wars? I would like to have a little
I
rat
like,
named after
yeah.
me. You know,
Oh,
be on
you're
the
right.
poster.
You could, yeah. I mean, yeah.
So he chases those little Munoz into the cavern, but she's wary to enter, right? She starts whimpering. So Batcher's like crying, and Omega senses something's wrong. She's like, "What's wrong, Batcher?" And as they approach the cave, you can see that it's dark, like the dark side of Luke's cave on Dagobah in Empire Strikes Back, or Rey's cave on Ahch-To in The Last Jedi, or even Anakin's cave on Nelvan in Star Wars Clone Wars, the miniseries. So they all kind of fit in together. The background music is reminiscent of Kevin Kliner's theme music for Asajj Ventress, if you pay attention. So then she continues in there. So Omega's drawn into the cave, and although she and Batcher have been inside this cave plenty of times, she says so herself, she discovers an unfamiliar ship. So it's not like this ship has been there and it's an ancient ship, because they've been in plenty of times they've been in there and they've never seen it. So it's something new. Um, Batcher, meanwhile, to her surprise, Asajj Ventress sneaks up behind her, startling her, and Batcher has run off. And the Bad Batch discover Asajj exiting the cavern with Omega. And they
Super brave dog. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
she's gonna, what are we doing? I know Bella would stay behind and protect me, but
She went to get help. She's a
she's
smart
like,
dog.
I'm out.
I'm out. So then the Bad Batch they find Batcher and like, where's Omega? And they go back, and that's when they confront
She
Ventress.
does her best Lassie impression.
She informs them that they're failing spectacularly at keeping a low profile, which you had just mentioned. And that's from them poking around trying to find out
Yeah.
about counts. She explains that Fennec sent her, and even though they never gave Shan their coordinates, Asajj mentions that she has her ways, aka the Force, among other things. She warns them about inquiring about M count, and that it's a very reckless thing to do as it attracts the wrong kind of attention from the Empire.
Yeah. So Fennec didn't necessarily sell them out. Like I thought she sold them out.
Yeah,
was
but
like
she didn't. She was actually
Yeah.
coming through with her promise of getting.
Yeah. So it kind of caught me off guard.
Mhm.
So maybe Fennec is not bad. I mean, 'cause I thought she's pretty much a bad bounty hunter now, but pretty much she's had some conscious.
I don't think bounty hunters are bad. I think they're true to their word, and they're
I didn't think they're true to the word. I thought
I
they'd
think
lie,
so.
cheat, and steal for money.
No, but I think that once they make a deal, you can count on them. Otherwise, who would hire them if they weren't good on their word? And I think that's what got Han in trouble when he wouldn't, bring back the merchandise or give back the money.
Smuggling. Yeah.
He was not true to his word. So, and then we did say at the last episode, remember when we reviewed it, we did say at the very end that it could be, we had our suggestions, and one of my suggestions was that it could be Asajj Ventress, and lo and behold, it was. And one thing I had found out is when you listen to the last episode, episode 8, and Fennec Shan is talking to her, you hear Asajj's theme little music sound, and that's her. Yeah.
God, they hide that in so well. Like they're so good
in there. So now it's like, oh, that's right, that's her music. So that was good.
I do say one thing I want to say. I kind of wish she wasn't in the trailer because she was the big stinger of the trailer. Like, you know how amazing Star Wars, like the Star Wars community would be like losing their mind right now if out of nowhere Asajj show up. What's she coming? If people just lost their mind. So I think they kind of spoiled it. They did spoil it by putting her in the trailer. And literally, like her good line, they even said in the trailer, "I wasn't planning on killing you," but I'm so really happy to see her, and I think they did her character really well. I'm really glad.
They did, and right off the bat, she wants to know why they need to know, and she would consider that her payment, and they refuse to tell her. But Omega blurts out that it's for a friend, right? Air quotes. Ventress explains that M count is something in the blood that everyone has in different varying degrees. And that those with a higher count are believed to be more capable of wielding the Force.
So there's a couple things here. I don't know if I would trust someone. They said my only payment is to know why. It's like, why do you want to know why? I mean, you need to do some kind of profit out of this, and knowledge that's going to give you what you want to know. You're going to do something with that. So why do you want to know? And that really was like, I'm like, oh, and then Mega's like, for a friend. And I'm like, maybe she can get by, maybe it for the friend works. But then immediately she goes, so I'm a Jedi? I was like, oh.
Well,
I
you know what?
literally face
I
palmed.
thought of that too. Face palm moment for
I
sure.
was like,
No,
oh, come on.
I was thinking the reason why Ventress would want to know that would be enough payment is because remember she is trained as a Jedi, but also trained under Dooku, under the Sith, although not as a Sith. So she probably has that instinct to want to train an apprentice at some point, which we've seen
She
they all end up doing.
She might. She seemed like she kind of wanted to, but they don't know that. They just know that
Right,
she only payment she want to know is why. And that to me is
right.
red flags all
It is
over the place.
suspicious. Right, right. It
I'm
is
like,
suspicious.
oh, I was like, you know what? I'll pay you instead. How about that? I'll give you a bunch of money. Tell me what you know before I give you that information.
And
So
I
that's
think that's
me.
why I think that's why they didn't want to tell her at first because they
Yeah.
want to keep it safe. But
I
then of
guess
course Omega,
Omega's the little kid like,
Omega,
that's we're friends.
it's me.
I was like,
So this
oh, face palm. It's like, so I'm a
right,
Jedi. I was like, oh god.
right. But you can see that Omega's very excited. She goes, "You mean I'm a Jedi?" And she's super excited. And then Asajj tells her, "You know what? Your blood does not make you a Jedi because it does require training." And that's
So
a good statement because blood does not make you a Jedi. And that's important because we've always had in our original trilogy is that the Skywalker bloodline were Jedis. And that was the big issue with the sequel trilogy where we wanted, in at least in the Last Jedi, they told her that Rey was no one, right? And I was happy because they had Broom Boy and it said like, you know what, the Force can be in anyone. You don't have to be of a certain bloodline, so it's not like royalty. And so Asajj confirms this again at this point, saying that your blood does not make you a Jedi. It's the training that's required. So yes, you might have the blood with higher M count that makes you more apt for the training, but that doesn't preclude you from being trained, even if you don't have the
well,
bloodline.
this actually to me goes more back to Ahsoka instead of like the sequel trilogy. How I bet you Sabine has a very low M count, but she trained a lot, and
Well,
so
we
this is
know she does because remember who Yang told her. She has the lowest level of anyone he's ever
yeah.
known in his 25,000 years.
So this is to me. This is. I remember I used the analogy during the other after shows. It's like a sport. Anyone could play, but some people
Basketball.
have natural talent, and then some people work really hard. Here's my camera. Some people work really hard. So the M count to me is natural talent, and then training is actually the really hard work. And so I think this is kind of confirms, and I think they kind of almost did this on purpose to cement that in. Everyone has some aptitude. Some have more. Some are the chosen one and have crazy amounts. Some don't have that much at all. It's really the work you put into really is what defines it, especially your discipline, or else you can go to the dark side really easy.
Right, right.
So I think that's a lot. There's a little reason why they put that in there. So
And
it
then
was
we
good. It helped flesh it out a lot.
and then we also have other examples that are not Sith or Jedi that also use the Force, like the Bendu or the Night Sisters. So there's all types of other cultures that
Yeah,
also use the Force or wield the Force that are not limited to Jedi or Sith.
you
So
don't.
there's
Yeah,
a
you
whole.
don't have to be a Jedi or Sith, obviously,
Mhm.
but if you're not careful, it's really easy to slip down the dark side. So you might not even be a Sith, but like Asajj was never officially a Sith, but she
Never.
was dark side user. So it's really easy to slip down that slope. So that's why it's really you got to be. That's why the Jedi code's so strict. Because
Mhm.
if you're playing around pretty much with these kind of powers, ultimate powers, it's you can easily mess up. So it's like it's really you got to be careful. That's where some of these other religions. If you read the book in Star Wars Cults and Religions, they're really strict on their codes of conduct too. And so
Mhm.
it's even like you have to do certain things and you have to believe a certain way. You just can't wield it because then you do become dark side. And like the Sisters of Dathomir, I said they're dark side users. So it's really the more you dive dive into the Force and how it
But
works.
you know
It's
what?
definitely fascinating.
The Dathomir witches are dark side users, but they haven't fallen to the dark side like Sith. So there's a difference. Even Asajj was a dark force user of the dark side, but she never fell to the dark side and became a Sith. She never had Sith yellow eyes.
Yeah, well, that's
So
just like degreeing
mhm.
of how much you.
No, but others
Yeah.
others are so fall down
Well, I
that
think.
track.
Well, I
They
think that's what a true Sith is. Is it's kind of a religion. They've totally accepted it 100%, and I think that's when their true potential becomes alive. I mean, their I don't have it on me, but their chant, their mantra, their chains are broken at the very end. It's like they become full power. It's like they
mhm.
fully accepted this way, and they've given it all the way into the dark side, and that's why they're really the most powerful. I mean, full Sith, Palpatine whooped Yoda, so I'm like, it's full Sith are pretty powerful. So I get it. So it's real fascinating, this discussion about the dark side.
Right. And furthermore, Asajj adds that no clone has ever been known to be force sensitive, but she immediately amends her statement, claiming that
You
the,
guys
Cam-
are
the
normal.
Kaminoans did make millions of clones, so there's a possibility that that if they do have a high M count, that they should consider themselves warned, since viewers know that the Empire is seeking the high M counts for Project Necromancer, and
So
Necromancer comes from the Greek roots of corpse and prophecy, which we know the Emperor needs to transfer his essence into for a form of immortality.
so I think Omega's blood has some type of mutation that allows M count, or
I
maybe
think
M
I
count,
think all the Bad Batch do.
or maybe some kind of M count transference, or something that would allow uh, the advancement of clones with force abilities. I don't necessarily think she has force abilities.
I
I
think
think
she does, John. I think she
I
does.
think
Even from the very beginning, she was very intuitive. She knew what Crosshair was going to do before he did it. So I think
yeah,
that her form of the Force, because remember, there's different ways to manifest it. Like Ezra
yeah,
manifested by communicating with animals. Okay,
yeah.
Anakin was very good at mechanics. So everyone has a different way to manifest their Force abilities. And I think that Omega, very early on, we saw that she did have that. She's very empathic, has a lot of empathy, and she knew what Crosshair was going to do. And so
A
that,
lot of
how would she know if it wasn't through the Force?
so that could be it, absolutely. But it also comes from, you hear stories of twins all the time, and you can't get any more twins than clones of kind of feeling each other's feelings and stuff like that. So it could be something more biological.
But then
Um,
why didn't the other clones that are also twins
well,
feel it?
she's a little different. She's obviously a little different. Like I said, she's different. Obviously different. But um, I don't want to chalk it up to she being force user, but there could be something there. But I don't think she's going to come out there and start moving stuff with the force at all.
I don't think so either. But
Yeah,
I think that if
yeah.
she had the training, she probably could. Because if Ahsoka can do it, who had a very low M count, then anybody can do it.
To me again, I think clones are unique. That's what I'm saying. I think so. This comes down to the whole argument: do clones have souls? Yeah,
Of course they do.
do they have luminous? Are they luminous beings on the inside?
Yoda said they were.
Clones?
Yes.
Yoda said,
When Yoda was with them in the Clone Wars animated series, when they were on that planet, they were in the cave, he told them that they were luminous, and so did Plo Koon. Plo Koon also told them when they were trapped out in space. So we have confirmation from Yoda and from Plo Koon that the clones do have individuality and they are luminous beings.
"Yeah, I'm going to go back and watch those." And then the Jedi are always right. We see
Well,
that.
I'm just countering with
And
it
I'm
has
just
been
saying, Yoda
stated.
didn't create the Force.
It
Plo Koon
has
didn't
been
create the
stated.
Force.
It has been stated in universe
Yeah,
that they do
it,
have souls
by characters. So that's what I'm
by the
saying.
characters. Uh-huh.
So they could be wrong. So that's what I don't
Okay,
necessarily. I mean,
they could be wrong.
it comes down to creating life. I mean, like it's
They can create life.
that's what I'm saying. They can create life, but that's I don't necessarily think that gives them souls or they're luminous beings or their force soul. So that's what I'm saying. I think this is that's what I'm not sure. We'll find out if clones have force or not. But that's what I'm saying. I'm not sure if they do. So we'll see. This series will show us.
We'll
Yeah,
see.
this series will show us.
Needless to say, Asajj is very aware of the M count, as she herself must have a very high M count, since she has proven to be quite powerful in the Force. Identified at a very young age by Jedi Knight Kai Narek, who upon meeting her said, "You are strong with the Force, little one," and we got that from her flashbacks when the Night Sisters brought her to Dathomir. And from that moment on, he took it upon himself to train her in the ways of the Jedi while they were both stranded on Ratatak, where Count Dooku would eventually discover her after Master Kai's death. So remember, when the Night Sisters gave Ventress away to a slaver to have her as his slave as a payment, or it was a sacrifice of the Night Sisters. And when they killed her master, she was just a young child. And that's when, on Ratatak, and that's when Jedi Knight Kai Narek found her, and then he took her on as his Padawan because they were stranded on Ratatak, no way to get off. And he trained her with what limited things he had available on that planet. Now, eventually, Ratatak was killed, and so she became just rogue on the planet, and she would fight in the arena. And Count Dooku eventually discovered her after Master Kai's death. So
she was a Padawan, but only while she was on that planet. So she never became an official Padawan on Coruscant or anything, huh?
She couldn't because you were stranded, but it was for 10 years. So she was a Padawan of Master Jedi Knight Kai Narek for 10 years on Ratatak. That's a long time in training. So she was a Jedi, well, trained in the ways of the Jedi. So probably what she's doing with Omega is probably very similar to what her training would have been, which is still in line with the Jedi training, but with limited resources because they were never on Coruscant. So Asajj does give them the intel that they were after, that if anyone has a high M count, the Empire will hunt you down. And this lets us know that she herself must also be in deep undercover, since the Empire would also be hunting her down as well for the same reason. As she's departing, Omega runs to her and tells her to wait. She doesn't want her to leave because it seems like she's going to take off. She wants confirmation that the Empire is after her due to her M count specifically. Asajj tells her that she can't tell without testing her. Now, because Ventress isn't trained on Coruscant and doesn't have all the apparatus, she doesn't know about the midichlorians, like Qui-Gon did to Anakin. But she has other ways of testing, which she then intends to do with Omega. Omega needs to know what she is. She doesn't ask who. She wants to know what she is. So if she is force sensitive or not. Asajj agrees, and so she starts testing her, similar to how Yoda tested Luke and how Luke tested Rey. So we see a lot of similarities between this. And Omega asks, since she knows about these tests, that she must be a Jedi. Asajj says no, but she knows some of their ways due to her early training under her old master Kai Narek. Meanwhile, Crosshair returns after checking text files from the Republic archives, and he confirms Hunter's suspicions of Asajj's true identity. At this, Ventress senses something, and she immediately feels the tide turn. Wrecker asks Hunter why a separatist assassin would be helping them, to which Crosshair retorts, "Who's to say she's helping?" At this moment, after failing Ventress's tests repeatedly and being questioned by Asajj what happened, Omega concludes it's too slippery, but upon saying this, Omega immediately says, "I'll start over." And then Asajj says, "No need." So in my mind, when this happened, it's because the test was never about balancing the fruit on the slippery rock. The test was about her perseverance. Does she have the grit to continue and persist? So as soon as Omega fell and she goes, "I'll do it again," Asajj received confirmation that this individual is willing to keep trying. So then she goes, "There's no need." And then she confirms, unbeknownst to Omega, that she has passed the first test and moves on to the next one. So
she told her she passed the first test?
She didn't tell her that. But when Omega says, "I'll keep trying," as soon as she stated, "I'll start over," that shows her persistence, willingness to persist. That's when, that's the moment when Asajj says, "Oh, there's no need." She didn't say she failed. She goes, "There's no need for you to start over."
I took it as she failed. I thought she was trying to see if Omega can have immediate Force abilities and trying to find peace and calm and actual balance without trying to find balance. So that's what I took it as.
Well, my interpretation is that it seems that the test is never to balance the fruit, but it's to check her perseverance. And once Omega demonstrated that she had that quality, it confirmed to Asajj that Omega had actually passed. And that's why she said there's no need. She didn't say you
I,
failed. She
I
said
guess I've
there's no
always just
need.
seen like one of the first things people train is trying to balance. Remember Luke trying to balance? It's always one of the first things. Try and balance. And so to me, that's just a repeat of that. So that's what I saw. So
Yes, but
can't.
Yoda
Yeah.
was asking that for the purpose of does this individual have the persistence that it will take to endure the Jedi training? If they don't have that quality of persistence, then it's not the act itself, it's do they have the character to be able to persist. So I think that's what Yoda was checking for too. Not necessarily that he can balance something, but does he have the grit, the persistence? And so the second test was for her to go to the Weeping Maya tree up in the colonnade at the top of Pabu's peak and retrieve one of its white blossoms and return before the sun sets. And just off Omega's shoulder, we see that the sun is about to set, right? So the sun, it's about to set. And I suspect that this test, just like the first one, is not about the completion of the task in and of itself, but rather a test of will on behalf of the student for determination. As with many things in the Star Wars universe, things are never as they seem, so Omega sets off hurriedly, determined to return in time with the prize. Once she's gone and Asajj is alone with the clones, she senses that something's coming up, and she says to them, whatever you're planning to do won't end well for you. And that reminded me a lot of when Luke told them that everything that they've just said. Remember Luke in what was it, The Last Jedi?
So you're breaking up a little bit. Can you get a little closer to your mic?
Yeah, yeah.
There it
Can you
goes.
hear me? Yeah.
Yeah.
So remember how Luke tells them that everything they've said is
It was a
incorrect?
lie. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll let you finish your point.
So that's it. So then
Also,
she
what
admonishes them to think carefully of how they want this to go because she's not there to hurt them, but she can
I'm
sense that they're plotting against her.
I'm not necessarily sure this was a test. I think this was like I need to talk to the overwatching uncles. Get out of here.
No, see, and I think this definitely was a test. So she passed the first test, which was does she have the determination to persist? Which when as soon as she says I'll try again, then that was telling her that oh she will persist. Okay, she said there's no need for you to try it again.
So I felt she failed the first one. There was no actual second test. And so I thought that's what I'm saying. I don't think she has any force things at all. So I think she is a complete failure for her. So
No,
it's
and I'll tell
interesting
you
that we
why
are good.
later. I'll tell you why later because in my analysis later it comes up again. So I'll tell you why. So then, yeah, we have two different points of view. So if you're Team John, put it in the comments. If you're Team Mike, put that in the comments.
And I'll circle back to why I think I'm right too, but
Okay.
we'll get to that later. Why I
So
am
then,
right, not why I think I'm right. Why I am right.
and by the end of this presentation, I'll prove to you why I am right. So, then we swipe to an out of breath Omega rushing up to the Archeum so fast that she mounts on Batcher for help because she's not going to make it. And so it's kind of cheating, but no, because it's her determination to do it and complete the task. Because remember, there were no guidelines. Um, Asajj never told her you have to do this, you can't do that. There were no guidelines. She just says, return with this white blossom before the sun sets, by any means necessary. And then we go back to Ventress and the Bad Batch in the cave, and she reminds them that they asked her for help. So she's there because they needed her help. They replied that was before they knew who she was. Hunter commands her to leave, and she says she'll consider it once she's finished testing Omega, or maybe she'll stick around a bit longer. So, and the reason why I'm thinking she might stick around a bit longer is because if this child does have a high M count, that means she is a candidate to be a Padawan, and Ventress might want to have a Padawan of her own to train her, to have as a partner, right? So, Wrecker angrily says, wrong. Now get in your ship and go before we make you, right? She calmly responds that they can try. And they let her know that they've taken down worse, and she reminds them that so has she. And just a little reminder, little history, they don't realize that she's battled both Anakin and Obi-Wan alone at the same time multiple times, and she has survived. So, I mean, they might be the Bad Batch, but they're not Anakin and Obi-Wan combined powerful.
Yeah, they're not
They
force
don't know.
users. So,
They don't know what they're dealing with. So, and that's why she's so calm in her demeanor with them. So they draw their weapons, and she easily disarms them using the Force, while teasingly telling them no cheating. Right? She's just like toying with them. At that, all three engage in hand-to-hand combat, and we're treated to a great sequence battle between the four of them, in which she easily results victorious. There's great animation, great, terrific action going on, and going so far as her catching that dagger in midair when Hunter just like thrusts it at her. She's like, ding, no problem.
The whole fight was me like when I fight my 5-year-old nephews. Like, come on, get your energy out. You got to eat your vegetables or something. Let's get this over.
Right? For Ventress, right?
Yeah, it's just like it's just
no
all right. Just get out your energy. Wait, let's get back to on task. I mean, that's really what it was. And even when they got serious, she's like, "That's all right, guys. You just aren't getting it. Like, let's just get this over."
But it was literally like at no point was she ever out of breath or
never angry. It's just like, oh,
no, because it
was
come
on, children. I'm just gonna. Yeah. This is a lesson for you to realize the hierarchy. You guys aren't in my class, so I'm just gonna keep making you look silly.
Right.
And the one when she comes back, it was like they didn't even show the fight with the weapons because like it was like too easy for her. So I thought that was really interesting. Just like
that was funny.
I'm trying to help you guys here. Knock it off. Just like not. It's like it was really interesting. Yeah. So then she could have easily killed them. And like I think that proves her also at the same time proves her
intentions.
Not intentions, but like I'm not here to do something malicious right now. So kind of like
those are her intentions. She doesn't have any bad intentions.
Well, you don't know yet. I mean, she could come back and steal her and raise her as a Sith.
But even Omega says that if she had wanted to kill them, she could have. You know. And then Wrecker's like, well, we were just getting started. But of course, we know that's not the truth. He's trying to save face. So when they do pause in the struggle, Ventress has Hunter's dagger, and then she throws it like she flings it, and it gets embedded into that solid rock by Hunter's foot. Of course, missing him on purpose because she doesn't want to hurt him. That just confirms that she's not looking to harm them at all. Crosshair manages to regain his weapon, and he tosses the other weapons to his brothers, and then they all aim them directly at her. And then we hear the Bad Batch theme, which is pretty cool, right? Because like, now we gotcha, haha, you know. And they think the tables have turned, but nope. At this point, Asajj calmly tells them, "Be good little clones and stand down," right? And Hunter reminds her that they're not big on following orders. At this point, Omega has reached the summit, and she's found a single white blossom, which is like a needle in a haystack or a 4-leaf clover, because they were all just pink. And she quickly jumps back on the Batcher's back and begins her journey back down to the cavern. And now we're back with our boys aiming their weapons dead on Asajj, and Crosshair's hand is no longer trembling. Did you notice that?
No.
It's no longer trembling. They focus on his hand holding his weapon, and it was no longer trembling. So it seems like Gunji's meditation sessions or techniques that Omega taught him has paid off. They begin firing, and through acrobatics, Asajj easily dodges all their bullets and their blasts, and then she brings out her one yellow lightsaber to easily deflect the remaining blasts. And we know she has two, but she doesn't even need both of them. I can use one hand behind my back.
Which you know is going to be at Batu within a year. Asajj yellow saber.
Those are the ones that we have.
They're yellow?
Yes.
No, those are red. No, I turned mine on. It's red.
Oh, you're right. The yellow saber is going to be there next.
Yeah, I'm saying that's the next thing we have to talk about.
Next, right? More money. So then, where was I? She tells him that she wasn't planning on killing them, but they're making it very tempting.
This is the line from the trailer, yeah.
Right. So she's not planning on killing them, but this is making it very tempting because they're like won't leave her alone. Wrecker reminds her that they're good at that. At this, Omega rushes into the cave, proud that she has the white blossom right before the sun sets, and she sees that Asajj has again easily overpowered all three of them. And I think it's Wrecker's up in the air, right? She's like holding up in the air. The other ones are down. She's like clearly overpowered them. And she asks what's going on. And Hunter tells her that Hunter tells Omega that Asajj has been lying to them, that she's a war criminal.
What's funny because she never even lied. I'm still like, she's not lying. She never said anything.
No, she's not lying. That's right.
Yeah,
She's not lying. And then Asajj
yeah,
reminds them that times have changed and that they, of all people, should be familiar with that, which is
yeah,
true because their roles have all completely changed. Hunter disgustedly retorts that they are not the same. Asajj reminds him that they were all pawns in the same war and that they all lost. She states that the Empire is more dangerous than they could possibly fathom. Because remember, she is the only one in this present company that knows that the Empire is secretly controlled by a Sith Lord and his Sith apprentice. Nobody else knows that. It's a secret. So she affirms that she is many things, but she is not their enemy. At that, she releases them and she walks away. So she even turns her back to them, where she has no fear. Later that night, Hunter tells Omega that Ventress cannot be trusted because of everything that she did during the Clone Wars. Omega questions them that if she was as bad as they say, why didn't she kill them when she had the chance? And that's when
yeah,
Wrecker says, "Oh, we were just getting warmed up," which is funny because we know that she beat them
yeah.
easily. Omega admits that she doesn't know much about the war, but she knows that things are different now and that people can change, motioning to Crosshair. And he instantly reminds her of what he said back on Mount Tantus, that she's being naive. And without missing a beat, Omega responds, "I never gave up on you, did I?" And then in this powerful moment, there's no music, no dialogue, and then we just feel the power of her words. So I think that this is one of those instances where Omega's tapping into her Force abilities of being able to sense that what I don't sense that Ventress is a danger. She senses that Ventress will be there to help her or help them. Knowing that she has the upper hand in this argument, Omega states, "I say we give her a chance." Okay, and then we go on to the next morning when Omega goes to meet Asajj without the Bad Batch. Asajj is surprised that she came out to meet her, but Omega tells her that she could have left, but she didn't, and she thinks it's because Asajj secretly likes them. Asajj tells Omega that she's an odd little clone, and Omega proudly says thanks because she's proud of that,
Hmm.
that she's different. She inquires about the previous day's tests, what they told her, and Asajj jokes, "You failed the first one." And Omega chimes in, "But I passed the second one." She's all proud. And that has to count for something, she says. So Ventress takes her into the boat, and they head out to the ocean, far, far out into the ocean. And Omega's smiling ear to ear, and Asajj tells her to take that smirk off her face. It's making her nervous. Omega's concerned that they're out so far. Asajj continues the more Asajj continues with more Jedi training, telling her that many who wield the Force have an affinity for nature. And I really like this part of the Asajj training of Omega, because during these parts of her training her, she's also teaching us of how probably her master trained her when she was a young Padawan. So these
Yeah.
are things that match things that we've heard Obi-Wan say to Luke, or Yoda say to the younglings, or any master to the Padawan. When you take all these things together, we're learning more about how masters train younglings or Padawans. Um, so much like Ezra connects with the Loth Wolves, she suggested Omega give it a try. So she puts her out on a pontoon and tells her to close her eyes and reach out with the Force for everything. Very reminiscent of how Luke trained Rey on Ahch-To and Obi-Wan's training of Luke. Back on Pabu, Wrecker says he doesn't like it and that they should be with Omega. Hunter reminds them that they gave Omega their word they wouldn't intervene, and Crosshair quickly says, "Well, you gave your word." So the Bad Batch are watching through binocs, and as soon as Wrecker makes binocular contact with Asajj, Asajj turns and makes eye contact with Wrecker, and he's like, "Well, how did she know that I was watching her?" She's, of course, she's got the Force. So, and they're no strangers to Jedi, so I'm really shocked that they don't understand uh, how she can do these things.
Oh, did I lose you? You
Oh, are
there?
you there?
I'm here.
I
Almost
couldn't hear
lost you.
you. Yeah, I can't hear
Yeah.
you.
You can't.
Okay, good, good. So Omega tells Ventress to forget it because she just can't do anything and she doesn't understand. She doesn't feel anything and she doesn't even know what she's supposed to do. Asajj blames the Bad Batch for her lack of training and discipline. And then Omega makes it very clear that she is trained. But Ventress makes a distinction between training as a soldier and training as a Jedi. That even if she does have Force potential, they can't show her how to tap into it. And that Omega dejectedly sits back down in the boat. She doubts that Asajj herself probably doesn't even understand. So why should she even listen to her? At that, Asajj feels like, oh, so you want to see? All right. She steps out, reaches out with the force, and then we hear the force rumbling. Dozens of bioluminescent rays start circling the boat instantly. Asajj comments that she's not the one holding back. So in other words, Omega's holding back her potential. Then all of a sudden the rays leave and they're attacked by a giant Varathian, which is like a sea creature turtle kraken. I don't know how to explain it. So the that tells me that even though Asajj was reaching out with the force, you never really have full control of the force. So you're wielding it, but you don't really control it yourself completely. So she did intend on connecting with the wildlife, but she didn't know exactly what would come back. So that's an important thing that I learned from what she's doing and training Omega. The Bad Batch at this see that they're in danger by the creature, and they rush to the Marauder to go rescue them. Omega asks Asajj if she had summoned it, and Ventress replies that she did not do it intentionally, showing that individuals do not have complete control. She tries to steer the ship away and escape when the creature capsizes them. It grabs onto Omega, and then Asajj rescues her. The Bad Batch arrive and begin shooting up the creature, and Ventress says that they're making it worse because they're angering the Varathian. So Omega contacts them with the comm and tells them to let Asajj take care of it, to trust her. Asajj taps into the Force, but this time it's the light side of the Force, right? Because she's not harming it. And she communicates with the Varathian peacefully, and it leaves, allowing the Marauder to return to them and rescue them and take them all to the mainland. So what did you think about that, John?
I almost wish we almost would have got like a series or something of more what happened with the canceled episodes of the Clone Wars. Remember, because really that's what the Dark Disciple was, the canceled episodes of the Clone Wars. And I really want to see this journey.
Asajj's journey, right?
She's Jedi-like when she used to be so Sith-like. And we never saw that transition. So I'm sure it happens in this book, which I have not read, but I did look up a summary of it.
The book it's one of the best books, John.
Yeah, I looked up for this because okay, I need to find out what's going on. So obviously looking up a summary is not going to show you these nuances, how she's changing and how she's obviously becoming. She says that you want to be a Jedi, to train to be a Jedi. So she's almost like taking on this Jedi persona again. Like, is she saying herself is a Jedi, or is she like Ahsoka? I am no Jedi. It's just like it's really curious where her stance, where she is right now, because seems like she's taking on the full thing. Like she's.
Yeah, you know what? I got the feeling. I got the feeling that she is like an early rendition of Baylan Skoll, because he was trained as a Jedi too, but then when he trains his Padawan, he's using the same techniques, but he's not training her to be a Jedi. So I don't think Asajj would train Omega to be a Jedi per se, but she's using the same technique. So it's very similar to what Baylan did.
He's just got the ruthless part, and she cares about it. She didn't want to harm the Bad Batch. And obviously, Baylan lands on that ship and just slaughters all these innocent people.
But Baylan doesn't want to harm either. He does it as a last resort because remember he tells I
don't think that was the last resort. I think he could have done other things. He could have subdued him, or do what Asajj did, just beat the crap out of them without killing them. But they just went straight to kill. So I don't think it was the last resort. I think he has no problem being ruthless. So I think there is a difference there. So he's more. They're both really close to that gray, but he's on the dark side of the gray, and she's on the light side of the gray.
Yes, so, I agree. I agree with that.
Yeah. So it really would have been cool if she would have had an orange lightsaber. Then I'm like, that would have been really cool, because then it would have brought them a little closer to that gray thing.
But I think it's orange because his yellow is teetering closer to the red. That's why.
Yeah, so I think
hers is more in the yellow. Yes.
Yeah.
So he's closer to the dark side than she is.
Yeah.
I think that's the big distinction.
So I really want to see her journey, because she's at peace, and she's not and that was one thing in Clone Wars. She was so tormented in being better, getting the best of Anakin, getting the best of Dooku, getting the best of whoever she can. Always like this anger and festering, and now she's just like, I'm cool, man. I got my crazy haircut, and I'm cool.
Yeah.
So
then,
I'm really enjoying her, and definitely I'm getting these huge like half, almost like rogue Jedi, like what Jedi have to be during the Purge, kind of like vibes from her. So I'm really
right.
yeah. So I'm really enjoying this of her. So
You know what? We're getting all these good examples because we're getting Cal Kestis, we're getting Kanan, Saj, Ahsoka, Balin. All of these are different examples of what they had to do on their own once they were unleashed, and let
yeah,
loose, because they all had to follow. They had to forge their own paths. You know, it
yeah.
and it's all the
There's no
different
more.
ways that it could have gone.
There's
I
no
love it.
Jedi oversight, like saying, "Well, you should." It's like, how can I do my best with what I have? So it's like
Mhm.
they're all kind of taking different routes.
But it's kind
And
of heading back towards the High Republic, because remember the High Republic, they could choose to leave, they could choose to be a way seeker, they could choose to whatever the Force called them to do. So
yeah,
it's going like almost going back to the way it was prior to the height of the Republic. So interesting. So
I think honestly, well, I don't know if you remember the tweet by one of the showrunners of the show saying how they're going to honor her death in Dark Disciple. They'll bring out an in canon way to make it so it's real. But they said they'll do it in future content. So they didn't
right,
say show. I think we're probably going to get an Asajj comic. I think honestly that's what's
or
going to happen.
series, something,
Yeah,
something.
yeah, not one, but I could maybe a 10 issue run or something like that. And
I
they're
hope
going to kind
so.
of we're going to kind of explain. I would love a show because I'm all in on Asajj right now. I think she's great. And I've got this one episode of her, and I'm like, God, I love her. I love how she's uh, really close to the Great Jedi, but on the light side. So I want
Mhm.
more of this. I don't know if we'll get any more of her in Bad Batch. That might be the last of her in Bad Batch. We might see her again. I don't know, but I can definitely see her not coming back at all anymore. Like
Mhm.
that was her role.
Right.
Um,
So
yeah, so
then
I want
that
to see more of this.
Me too, me too. So that night they're all by Asajj's ship, and Omega asks her if she figured it out, if she has a high M count. Ventress responds that from what she's seen, no. Omega thanks Asajj for trying, and then Wrecker tells Omega, "Don't worry, let's just go get some chow," and they take off. Once Omega and Wrecker have left, Crosshair tells Asajj that she's lying, and Ventress does not deny it. That if Omega did have the potential, she would have to be trained, meaning she would have to leave them behind. Hunter immediately says that's not going to happen. She reminds him that what they want is irrelevant. The fact remains that the Empire is after her and they won't stop. She admonishes them that if she were they, she'd leave Pabu because they're not as safe as they think they are. And she lets them know that their business is done. So she's taking off. So I think that in a roundabout sort of way, she told Omega no, but I think Ventress does see some potential in Omega, but knows that in order for her to develop that, she would have to take her away and train her. And I think this is similar to how Grogu had to be taken away from the Mandalorian to be trained with Luke, but Luke just took him and tried to train him. And she sees the close bond that there exists between Omega and the Bad Batch, that's not really something that's going to happen. So it's not possible. But that for her
It's
to be able to protect herself, she really should be trained away from them in the ways of the Jedi.
well, and kind of in defense of Luke. Luke was trying to rebuild the Order. Asajj doesn't give a crap about the Order. She's not trying to
Right.
rebuild it. So
No,
that's
no,
why
she's
Luke was
not.
like, yeah. So like, she's like,
Right.
I don't really want this responsibility. So
Right. Right.
yeah. So I'm not sure Omega passed any of them because we never actually saw any force. We saw determination, will, but anyone can do that. I mean, we could do that. You and me could do that. Anyone could have determination and will. So I don't know really what happened on the water because I don't know. We don't really know what happened on there because it wasn't really ever split out. So I don't know if she passed any of them. Honestly, I think that might be why she's like, oh, she might have a high M count in her blood, but this goes back to can clones actually use the Force? That's what I'm
Mhm.
I'm
Well,
still stuck at.
I go back to my role as a teacher. So when I taught my preschoolers and I would have them do a task, the outcome of the task was never what I was looking for. I was looking for their interactions and their behavior. So the way that they went about solving the task is what I was really looking at as the teacher. Now the 3-year-old doesn't know that, right? So there's like if I tell them figure this puzzle out and they're trying to put a puzzle together, they think that I want to see them complete the puzzle, and that's not true as an educator. What I'm really looking at to see is are they using different strategies? Are they manipulating the pieces? Are they working well with others? So I'm looking for other factors that the child is unaware of, and I think
Yeah.
that that's what Asajj was looking at too. It's not just the task itself. Now, of course, granted, if Omega had been able to float that fruit above her head, and and would have been able to leap up to the top of the Pabu in one bound,
Yeah.
then obviously that's clear evidence that she has a high M count and
Yeah.
a high potential, which is what Asajj demonstrated when she was very young.
Yeah.
So if you look at remember the flashback the Asajj was having when she was on the Dathomir, and she saw herself as a child, and how she pushed the soldiers off the rooftop. She
Yeah.
was just like 6, and she or 5, and she just like used the Force instantly. So I think there's different degrees, but then Crosshair says to her that he still can't figure out which side she's on, and she responds, "My own." So Hunter asks her if she's not worried about the Empire coming after her, and she says that they can try because she's very confident in her abilities.
Well,
Asajj,
I was gonna say in this comic we get, if we get a comic of her, I want it to end with the showdown with her and a familiar foe, Anakin Vader, because she would say Anakin, and
but if it's
it'd be,
Anakin, but if it is, then she's got to die because
yeah, that's
Anakin
fine.
doesn't
It'd be a
die.
great fight. It'd be an amazing fight, and it even help build Anakin's character too, Darth Vader's character, especially if you can have some like Obi-Wan moments in their fight. I mean, it'd be pretty cool. I mean, she's not gonna have any emotional attachment to him, but she's gonna like call him out. I think that would be so cool to see that. Like, I know who you are. You're Anakin
If
Skywalker.
you watch the micro series though, we already had that. We had
as
Anakin fighting Asajj in the micro series
as
in
Vader.
his preclude to Vader as
When I was
Anakin.
as Vader, I think that'd be like
Oh,
because not too many people know that the secret, so she would know.
right, right.
I think that'd just be really cool battle.
Yeah, she would know. That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
I would watch it. I'm not saying no.
She's pretty elite on fighting skills.
Yeah,
And
she is.
Vader, every time we see him, we don't really see elite fighting skills because he's
And
part
remember,
mechanical.
she's almost a sister to Vader because who trained her? It was Dooku. And who was Dooku's Padawan? It was Qui-Gon. Who was Qui-Gon's Padawan? It was Obi-Wan. Who was Obi-Wan's Padawan? It was Anakin.
So she's like a great aunt.
Yeah, yes, yes.
So
She's
I mean, they have the same lineage of training. Yeah, the same tree,
they're
like they say in
definitely
sports.
related, right?
Same
They're definitely
coaching tree.
related. Yeah. So that is pretty cool. That would be pretty
Yeah.
cool. So she's powerful.
He killed Dooku, so it even goes back to that. So I think it'd be pretty cool because that's really the only thing that I think can stop her. I don't think any Inquisitors are going to stop her.
Oh no, no way.
So I think it'd be really cool to see like, all right, bring out the big guns. Vader ends this series and have it a little emotional for her. So I think that'd be cool. So if anyone's watching, Calvin Scott, whatever, let's do this.
So Asajj ends this episode saying that she still has a few more lives left in her, and I think this is the nod to why people were confused about. Wait a minute, she died in Dark Disciple. How can she come back? Somehow Asajj came back, but by saying that, she is acknowledging that she has had previous deaths, and the most recent one was in Obi-Wan's arms on the battlefront of Planet Bau's Pity in the last issue of the Dark Horse comic number 5 episode series of Star Wars Obsession, which is Legends. But there we learned from the epilogue that she did survive through the use of Sith meditation techniques to slow her functions down, and that the Force did the rest. Another one of her deaths was when she battled Anakin on Yavin 4 in the Genndy Tartakovsky Clone Wars micro series, and her last recorded death was when she sacrificed herself for the love of Quinlan Voss in the novel Dark Disciple by Christy Golden, author of the Fate of the Jedi novel series, Omen, Allies, and Ascension, and the novel Battlefront 2 Inferno Squad, as well as the short stories First Blood, Ascension, Getaway, Good Hunting, and Kindred Spirits. And that's a prequel to Dark Disciple. Clearly, Asajj has demonstrated multiple times how she can cheat death. And then this episode ends with Omega looking sadly as Asaja's ship flies away.
So I think she survives, not because Sith dark side. I think this is her genealogy. The sisters, what are they called? The Dathomir sisters. And remember, all the Dathomir sisters were wiped out by the Sith in the Empire, whatever you want to call them at the time.
Well, there was a genocide.
Yeah. So I think they're bringing her back is kind of like she's their champion. She's not evil anymore. She's trying to do good. She's going to try and try and redeem them. We know that doesn't last. You see, in Ahsoka, they're back on the dark side or whatever. But we see that they try and do resurrection, obviously. And in the comics, so what I looked up, when they try to do her burial, I guess, or how they do it, they put her in water.
Yes.
And they see the green mist like float up, and they hear the Dathomir sisters' voices. Obviously, the Dathomir's spirits are involved. Whether that's how they later to rest, how it normally happens, which would be weird every time they lay them down, you hear spirits, but that's what happens. So I think they're championing her to be their force for good. So I think they're bringing her up. You got to get revenge for us, even not even a force for good, but revenge against the Sith for genociding us. So I think that's what's happening there. We'll get it hopefully in a comic or a show. Good God, I love a show.
I hope
Disney needs to start planning the next animation. You got to always have Star Wars animation because Star Wars animation is better than Star Wars live action right now. Star Wars animation is amazing right now. So.
And it's easier to do because you can always, it's easier to do animation. You don't.
It's cheaper.
Depend on an actor. It's cheaper, and you don't have to depend on an actor.
Yeah. You don't. Yeah, no strikes affect animation. So
right.
We'll see.
Well, so this is the end of the episode. So what's your rating for this episode, Jonathan? Did you like it or not like it? Let's start.
I enjoyed it a lot. I just wish I didn't know she was coming back because then my mind would have been blown. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, I really like her character. I didn't know anything about her character. I just know she was kind of your kid sister or kid brother is always trying to be better than you or whatever, and really just paying the butt in the Clone Wars. But I did like her arc, how she's kind of betrayed by Dooku, and then she tries to get back, and I enjoyed that. But now she's come even more full circle, so I really enjoyed it. So she really did it for me. I really liked it. I still got clones have no force abilities out of it, so I'm glad we got different points of view. So we're going to do an after show. We're going to really dig into this, and I'm going to prove my crux. We can't do it. We're already an hour, and I want to talk forever on that. But
what's your rating? What's your rating?
So let's go 4, and that's a high rating for me. It's a high 4.
4? Wow. John's 4 is like a 5.
Yeah, it's a high 4.
So I'm not going to give it a 5, but I really enjoyed this episode a lot. I'm glad to see Asajj. I'm glad she's back. I wish that she had come back on the planet where she made her debut in the Clone Wars, the movie, when she first made her debut on that planet, the purple planet. So I was really hoping that would be her comeback, and it might have been, but I don't think so now, because she's just a bounty hunter. So she wouldn't be one of the shadow troopers or shadow clones.
Oh yeah, that was one option, huh? Yeah.
Yeah, but no, it wouldn't be because she's
so it's Cody.
Not in the
I think it's strong Cody. Chance it's Cody.
Yeah. So I love her coming back. I love this arc. I wish they hadn't shown that she was going to be in it because it would have been a mind blowing. Then it would have been a 5. Like, wow, can you believe that? The internet would have been ablaze with, oh my God, it's Asajj. Nobody would have expected it because everyone thought she was dead. So that would have been really cool just to have that as a surprise. But I still enjoyed it. I give it a 4.75. It's a really strong episode. Not a 5, but I really enjoyed this arc, and I hope this isn't the last we see of Asajj because she's one of my favorite characters as well.
Yeah, I want to see more, and she wasn't one of my favorite characters. She was interesting, especially because it gave her that arc in Clone Wars.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm like, wow, I really like where this character has gone. And I don't even know if she's a bounty hunter. You mentioned she's a bounty hunter. I don't know if she's even a bounty hunter. I think
she is a bounty hunter. She's a fellow bounty hunter, and that's why Fennec Shan reached out to her.
Oh, I thought she could just maybe be like an acquaintance of Fennec.
She's a well-established female bounty hunter.
Where does it say that?
I don't have it in my notes now, but I would have to go back and I'll get that back to you later.
Yeah, I didn't know that at all.
But yeah,
because I didn't get that at all. Actually, I just got maybe she's a private investigator, really, and she's looking into the Empire. Because really, I think she has an axe to grind against the Empire. So
definitely.
So I don't know, bounty hunter is really what she should be doing instead of she's trying to investigate how to bring down the Empire from inside. So, especially if that's why she was resurrected. If she was resurrected by the death of her sisters to give justice for the genocide, I don't know if bounty hunter is really what she should be doing. So it's kind of losing track of your focus. But
remember, that's kind of what Kanan was doing too, when he was hiding.
Yeah, but Kanan wasn't resurrected by his whole species for purpose.
The field that you go into as somebody after the purge is when you want to hide. You go into a field where you can make money, but be able to be underground, which would be bounty hunting. Yeah. You don't go into a legitimate field. So you have to go into like the black market, dark areas. And that's what Kanan did when he became before he met Hera.
So, Bryce, what's your rating, Bryce? Anything?
I didn't give them a rating, but I think I agree with Mike.
I give it a 5. Why you give it a 5?
Bryce gives it a 5.
I don't agree with Mike at all. Clones can't have the Force. All right. We're going to do an after show on this, but all right. Let's get into this. All right. Please follow us on YouTube at the Virtual Cantina Network, on Instagram at virtual.cantina network, on X at Cantina Virtual, on Threads at virtual.cantina network, and on Hive at Virtual Cantina. Just search Virtual Cantina, some formations with dots, you'll find it. And at TikTok, Virtual Cantina with 2 exclamation marks. And then the mothership of them all, Star Wars Celebration Japan 2025, where you will see most of us, maybe not all of us, in Japan. But that page is where we were all being hangouts, where everything happens. It's a fun place to be. Lots of conversations there. It's where everything spawns. So,
shout out to our sister sites of Star Wars Book Nerds and Star Wars Comic Book Club. And a special shout out today is Jonathan's birthday. So happy birthday to you.
May the Force be with you.